everyone. I hope you're all doing swell. I've been away for a while because I've been very busy with school and haven't had the full time to really dissect what's going on around us right now. Um, I also actually had a virus on my computer, and I didn't really figure out it until it was there until actually a couple weeks ago. But I got it fixed, so it's all good now. So I guess I'm just going to use this video to sort of catch up with what's going on. There are a lot of problems right now on both the left and the right, which is pretty frustrating to say the least. I guess first we'll look at the right. President Trump has been sworn in and is now the leader of the free world. He's already created jobs, rolled back Obama regulations, and is attempting to do all he can to keep his campaign promises. This is a great thing, considering we've had hypocrisy and lies in this country for the past 8 years in terms of promises and legislation. But the thing that's really bothering me about the right is not really so much the far right or the alt-right, which I think I'll get into in a different video, but both the establishment and Trump. So really, I'm going to focus on just those two and disregard the alt-right for a second here, I know. But these recent claims from the Trump administration that Obama wiretapped Trump Tower is pretty bizarre. I mean, he randomly tweeted out that he found out that Obama did this and provided no evidence whatsoever. I know that there were these court orders that were rejected when Obama requested to sort of look into Trump's staff and kind of see if they had any ties to Russia. But I have a big problem with the president tweeting something out without concrete evidence. And people are defending that. That's what even makes me even more upset. The same people who voted for Trump, who voted for change, are now taking this and running with it. I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't think that's healthy for anyone to do, really, especially on the right, because it just makes Trump look even more like an idiot. I just think he needs to come clean and say what he meant in the media, just so we know for sure. He's the most powerful man in the world. I'm sure he can gather whatever evidence he wants in terms of that. Another problem with Trump I have is this whole American Health Care Act, the American Health Care Act, the whole debacle that occurred last week. It was really Obamacare light. It failed in Congress, and it was going to be rejected by all Democrats, but about half of Republicans, not really half, but like a good amount of Republicans didn't like this bill, including Senator Rand Paul, who pretty much spearheaded this movement. We expected the left not to like this and accept it, and that's exactly what happened, but the surprise was, at least to Trump, not full Republican support. And the reason why is because it's basically a watered-down version of full governmental health care. This is not what I nor people who voted for Trump wanted. In fact, this was spearheaded by Paul Ryan, who is an establishment cuck, which everyone pretty much knows, and he tried to ram this bill really fast and down the House's throats. They got strict opposition, especially from the Freedom Caucus, and the Freedom Caucus basically made the same arguments that I had. Basically, the fact that this is pretty much Obamacare light, and it does not give power back to the insurance companies, and it gives more power to the government, and this is not what Republicans want, and this is not what Republicans fought for. So, Paul Ryan is part of the problem, and Paul Ryan is part of the swamp that Trump wants to drain. And he's tried to really sneak it past Trump. I mean, Trump, of course, went out and tweeted and blamed Democrats for the fail of this. But the problem is he doesn't realize that this bill was not a full repeal and replace of Obamacare, but rather just a watered-down crap version. But then Trump called on the Republicans, and he basically blamed them also, the Freedom Caucus and the people behind that. He blamed them for the failure of this bill, and he didn't realize that this was just another disastrous attempt at government-run care, government-run healthcare. It's already failing with Obamacare, and we all know it. I'm not really to sound like him, but you all know it, we all know it. Anyway, and just because some news outlet runs a negative headline about Trump doesn't mean it's fake news. He has this whole idea where basically anyone that tweets anything negatively about him is fake news, and I just disagree with that. He has to really, it really has to be a blatant lie when he means fake news. It can't just be, oh, they're saying bad things about me, I don't like it. He has to be used to this by now. He's been in the public eye for over 40 years. But other than that, I think the president has good intentions for this country. Like I said, he's creating jobs, he's cutting back on regulations, which is all great. Great stuff. That's what I like. Okay, here's the rather interesting part. Now we get to the left. Oh my good lord. Where do I even start with this? I don't know. Let's see. Bullshit Russia claims, hysteria in the streets, justifying violence, inauguration day antics, to name the few. And I do want to go into that. So during the inauguration of Donald Trump, there were protests from an anarcho-communist group called Antifa. These people are against fascism and white nationalism. They are your typical basement-dwelling twats who have nothing better to do. They destroy property, inflict violence on anyone who is deemed a quote-unquote Nazi by them. So basically, anyone even slightly to the right of them. Of course, dead silence by the mass media about their violence, and they've been awful with that. They don't care about any violence in the left. They just want to look at a shred of right-wing violence against the left, and it's nothing new from the media, considering all the attention that they gave Black Lives Matter. The Women's March actually was a march that took place in D.C. after the day after Trump was inaugurated and sworn in, and millions and millions of women wore pink and quote-unquote pussy hats, which is extremely ironic looking at what they're blaming Trump for during the campaign with those whole, I don't know if you guys remember, but during those whole, oh, do you want our children seeing this? And they're picking out bits of Trump's speeches. Yeah, well, now you all look like fucking hypocrites. You dressed up as vaginas in the streets and tried to normalize things like menstruation on the street. You disgusting land whales. It's just beyond me. You guys are just huge fucking hypocrites. Do you really want children looking at you and taking you serious? Do you want people taking you seriously? And do you want our children to look at you and to look up to you? I'm really talking about Madonna and those people who spoke at that one speech outside on the National Mall, saying that she would like to blow up the White House and using pretty bizarre language. And again, the media said nothing about this. No bizarre. They didn't say anything about the bizarre speeches or anything. This pretty much has no bearing other than I have a vagina, so do you, so we must band together and fight. Well, there was no real central message to this march whatsoever, other than I'm a woman and I will not be ignored and I will not lose my rights. Meanwhile, Trump has said nothing about rolling back quote-unquote women's rights, or however the feminists describe it today, whatever umbrella they perceive, whatever terms they perceive women's rights. I don't know, because I've watched several videos of these people in the streets, and they all say different things. They all say they're protesting different things. The media cheered and cheered and cheered and cheered this pointless movement. And I love how the pro-life march was the next day with millions, almost this, like a little bit less than the Women's March in D.C., but nobody said a word in the mass media. Nobody. And it was a pretty big march. I saw some of the photos. It's pretty pathetic. Also, some more hysteria. This was actually pretty recent. There was also an executive order that was blocked by a Seattle judge when Trump was making immigration policies for the country from the Middle East and saying it discriminated on religion. But A, it did not, and B, the president constitutionally has the executive power to suspend immigration. You can't deny him that. It's written in our Constitution, okay? So, barring this political bullshit from the Ninth Circuit, he then revises the order and took out basically anything that had to do with religion, anything even remotely close. And I have to say, it wasn't really rolled out well at first. So, for one side of me, it's just that this order was taken politically and rejected politically, but it was really poorly rolled out. But he then revised it, which is a good thing. But this time it got blocked by a judge in Hawaii. And I'm not surprised at all that the former president was visiting there while this ruling was being made. This judge went to law school with President Obama. The left is now a complete circus. There's nothing good coming out of it besides quote-unquote resistance to Trump, which isn't making them look any better at all. And they're only going further left and left and left and left. It's just unbelievably sickening. You just see the themes of cognitive dissonance, dogma, hysteria, and departure from reality from the left. You have celebrities in Hollywood making quote-unquote brave speeches at these award ceremonies, but all they're really doing is spouting into an echo chamber and the cult that is Hollywood. Actors like Clint Eastwood, Vince Vaughn, Tim Allen, Denzel Washington, Rob Schneider, and Mel Gibson seem to be the only people left in Hollywood who are actually brave enough to tell anyone outside of this cesspool how much of an Orwellian fantasy it's become. But enough about the left. I would like to get into something that I personally experienced this week in one of my classes. As you can guess, it's something idiotic a leftist professor said. So the story goes as this. I'm in this comparative literature class, and my teacher was out a few days. She had a conference in Baltimore, and we had this substitute teacher, or professor, come in, and she was also in the English department. So it's not like she didn't know what she was doing. The problem was she knew exactly what she was doing. So for homework, we had to watch Mad Max Fury Road, and the topic of feminism came up in this movie because, yes, I could see in some instances that there's empowerment to women, but again, I don't think that feminism really stands for that. I think feminism looks to degrade women and set them up for failure, telling women that they have all these problems to face, and it's the patriarchy, and it's to blame the men, and the men are at fault for everything that goes wrong in their lives. Again, that is pretty much what modern day feminism is, and nothing short of that. So I don't think it's about empowering women. Anyway, this professor went on and on and on and on and on about this fucking bullshit feminism theory, how it pertains to real life feminism, and I just couldn't even. I just had to sit there and take it. It was horrible. I didn't agree with anything she said. And pretty much everyone in my class hasn't really seen the darker side of feminism and how awful the movement is. So we keep talking about Mad Max, and again, I don't know if you guys seen this movie, but it's a pretty good watch. I definitely recommend it. And she basically says like the women who are in the truck with Max and Furiosa, the way they treat women in this society. She said that it was similar to Catholicism and nothing else. That was it. She only said Catholicism. It's not like she said religion. She said Catholicism, which is so far from the truth, especially in modern days. She talked about how women were constrained in Catholicism. I mean, it's as if the left is blind to anything, to everything. They're blind to everything that's outside of their think tank. They just have a blurred vision of reality, of the lens that they're looking through. It's distorting the image beyond repair, and it comes to a point where we have feminists defending an ideology that stones women for being raped and allows marriage at very young ages. I mean, they just turn a blind eye to this religion, and then they point out Catholicism. Catholicism is becoming more secular than Islam. Look at any Islamic country, and you can see the oppression of women. They have to wear clothes that cover up every inch of their body in extreme cases. They have to always obey their husband. Half the time they get arranged marriages. I mean, this you have to point, if you're going to point out any religion that suppresses women like they do in Mad Max to some extent, you have to point out Islam. Pointing out Catholicism is not only inaccurate in modern society, but it's also horseshit to not point out Islam and their treatment of women. I mean, it just boggles my mind that there was not even the slightest notion or mention of Islam whatsoever. It's disgusting. It really is disgusting that this hateful ideology gets a pass on everything, and it becomes a race, and people try to protect it. Oh, speaking of Islam, I wanted to talk about why not talk about this whole movement in Canada right now, where the oh, the Canadian government wants to wants to stop Islamophobia. Islamophobia. Yeah, this is the West now. This is what the West is starting to become. Canada, they want to bring this legislation about, and the best part is when there were critics saying fairly, oh, it shouldn't be just about Islam, it should be about all religions. Like, people shouldn't discriminate based on religion. It's just like, nope, it's just Islamophobia. Just Islamophobia. That's it. It's unbelievable. And it's truly sickening to see what's happening here, especially in a country like Canada. The idea that the government gets to decide what is and what isn't Islamophobia. And what no one really quite knows what the definition of Islamophobia is. That's the problem with this all. This legislation is vague that was brought up. We don't know what Islamophobia is. Is Islamophobia simply criticizing the religion? Is Islamophobia being afraid of letting in refugees because of what's happening in Europe? Is Islamophobia being afraid of what happened after 9/11? Is that Islamophobia? And at what point did it become racist to criticize an ideology? That's my question for the left here. Anyway, I mean, I didn't really expect this video to be too long, but I guess it is. Just a lot of catching up to do, and I thought I would do it all now. I think I'm going to talk about the shenanigans of Shia LaBeouf in my next video, and talk about 4chan and the ultimate power of weaponized autism.